On Elderly and Health, we bring you stories that challenge what aging really means for senior wellness. At 92, Helen had forgotten her daughter's wedding, her street name, even her favorite song. Her family had quietly accepted the decline, until one afternoon, after lunch, she took 3 simple vitamin pills. Within days, something shifted. In today's episode, discover how a single moment led to a memory revival no one saw coming, and what it means for millions of seniors worldwide. Dr. Grace Mitchell, a leading expert in geriatric nutrition, explains, "Memory decline isn't always neurological, it's often nutritional. And that's where most families miss the window. As people age, their ability to absorb critical brain-supporting nutrients like B12, D3, and omega-3 drops significantly. Combined with a reduced appetite and medication interference, it becomes the perfect storm for mental fog." Helen, 92, had become withdrawn, confused, and emotionally flat. Her daughter feared the worst, but what doctors initially suspected as dementia turned out to be silent deficiency. Within days of targeted vitamin support, Helen's clarity returned, memories, smiles, even small jokes. This episode explores how specific vitamins fuel the senior brain, why timing matters, like taking them after lunch, and how simple choices can reverse what we wrongly assume is permanent. Because when it comes to senior wellness, knowing what's missing can bring someone you love back. Helen had always been sharp. Crossword puzzles, trivia nights at the community center, remembering everyone's birthday, her mind had been her pride. But slowly, something changed. She started calling her granddaughter by the wrong name. Then came the day she forgot her front door code. Her daughter chalked it up to age. Her doctor mentioned possible early dementia. But no one asked about vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is essential for cognitive function, nerve health, and red blood cell production. It acts like an electrical conductor, keeping the brain's signals firing smoothly. When deficient, those signals slow, flicker, or misfire completely. The result? Memory lapses, confusion, poor coordination, and even mood swings. And it doesn't take a full deficiency to see symptoms. Even low normal levels can impair thinking. As we age, the body's ability to absorb B12 from food diminishes. Stomach acid production drops, making it harder to separate B12 from protein in meat and dairy. Many seniors, like Helen, are also on acid-suppressing medications or metformin, both of which further deplete B12 levels. Compounding this, their diets may lack animal protein altogether due to chewing difficulties or low appetite. Helen's diet consisted of tea, toast, and the occasional canned soup. Not much B12. Her daughter hadn't considered it. But after watching a segment about memory vitamins on daytime TV, she bought a small bottle of sublingual B12. That afternoon, after lunch, she gave one to Helen. Within 4 days, something shifted. Helen remembered where the spare keys were. She asked about the neighbor's dog. By the end of the week, she was finishing crossword puzzles again, something she hadn't done in over a year. Dr. Grace Mitchell warns that B12 deficiency often mimics dementia, leading to misdiagnosis and unnecessary medication. But with proper testing and the right supplement form, like methylcobalamin lozenges or injections, mental clarity can return surprisingly fast. For seniors experiencing foggy thinking, B12 should always be one of the first things checked. Because sometimes, what looks like aging is just a missing vitamin. Helen had stopped smiling. Not dramatically, just gradually. She sat longer at the window without speaking, ate meals without opinion, and no longer commented on the weather or her favorite shows. Her family assumed it was loneliness or aging. But behind that fading light was something else, a severe deficiency in vitamin D3. Vitamin D3, commonly known as the sunshine vitamin, plays a surprisingly powerful role in brain chemistry. It doesn't just strengthen bones, it also regulates mood, improves focus, and reduces inflammation in brain tissues. In older adults, low D3 levels have been strongly linked to depression, cognitive decline, and even slower processing speed. Helen hadn't been outside regularly in years. Her skin was sensitive to sun, her knees too stiff for the porch steps. Like many seniors, she didn't realize that sunlight alone was her primary source of vitamin D3, and her body's ability to produce it from the sun had already declined with age. Her meals didn't include fatty fish or fortified dairy, and no one had ever checked her D3 levels. It was her granddaughter, a nursing student, who suggested it. "Let's try adding D3 with lunch," she said. They chose a 1000 IU soft gel, taken right after Helen's midday soup. Just a week later, Helen's tone changed. She asked about the news. She giggled at her great-grandson's drawing. Her posture even seemed straighter. And most notably, her memory felt sharper. Dr. Grace Mitchell explains that vitamin D3 helps regulate serotonin and dopamine, neurotransmitters tied to memory, motivation, and emotional stability. Without enough D3, the brain feels like it's running in low light, she says. Restoring it is like flipping a switch. For best absorption, D3 should be taken with meals containing fat, like soup with olive oil or a small slice of avocado. And while sunlight is ideal, most seniors over 80 require supplementation year-round. Helen's mind wasn't gone, it was undernourished. And that quiet return of curiosity, joy, and conversation? It didn't come from a therapist or a pill for depression. It came from a tiny capsule of something we all need, but often forget. The third pill Helen took after lunch was nearly as large as her thumb, a soft, golden omega-3 capsule. Her daughter hesitated. "Will this really help her memory?" she asked. But the research was clear. DHA and EPA, the key fatty acids in omega-3, are foundational to brain health, especially in seniors. Our brains are nearly 60% fat, and DHA makes up a significant part of that structure. In aging adults, especially women over 80, DHA levels drop rapidly. When that happens, cell membranes stiffen, electrical signaling slows, and the risk of memory loss, brain fog, and even Alzheimer's increases sharply. But the loss isn't always permanent. Supplementing omega-3 can revitalize cognitive function, particularly in cases of nutritional decline. Helen hadn't eaten fish in years. She didn't like the smell, and chewing became difficult with her dental issues. Her diet lacked flaxseed, walnuts, and other plant-based sources of omega-3. No one thought to question it, until her granddaughter, during a nutrition module at school, brought home the idea. They started small, one soft gel daily after lunch, alongside B12 and D3. Within days, Helen began speaking more fluently. Her stories came back, clearer and more detailed. "When I was 16, she began one afternoon, no prompting, no confusion. It was like her memories had been tucked away behind a fogged window, and omega-3 helped clean the glass." Dr. Grace Mitchell confirms this pattern. Seniors with low omega-3 levels often report not feeling sharp. They can't concentrate, can't retrieve words. It's not dementia, it's cellular starvation. Omega-3s also have anti-inflammatory effects, reducing neuroinflammation, that quietly damages the brain over time. For maximum benefit, supplements should include at least 500 to 1,000 milligrams of combined DHA and EPA, and be taken with food to improve absorption. Plant-based alternatives exist, like algae oil, but fish-derived formulas are more bioavailable. Helen didn't need medication. She needed restoration, of nutrients, of dignity, of the stories only she could tell. Omega-3 didn't turn back time, but it reconnected the past with the present, bringing her gently back into conversations, and into herself. Helen's memory revival wasn't just about what she took, it was when she took it. The 3 vitamin pills weren't handed to her at breakfast or bedtime. Her daughter gave them to her after lunch, not thinking much of it. But that timing became a quiet game changer. Dr. Grace Mitchell explains, "In seniors, digestion is slowest in the morning and most unpredictable at night. But midday, especially after the primary meal, is when the stomach's acid and enzyme production is at its most reliable. That means nutrient absorption is significantly more efficient after lunch." For Helen, lunch was her most substantial meal. A bit of soup, maybe some eggs or mashed avocado, and always a cup of warm tea. It was the one time of day when her metabolism was truly engaged. That fat content, though small, was essential. Vitamins D3 and omega-3 are fat-soluble, meaning they require dietary fat for proper absorption. Taking them on an empty stomach would have reduced their effectiveness or even caused nausea. Her B12 tablet, taken sublingually, under the tongue, also performed better when she was relaxed and sitting upright, another benefit of the post-lunch window. And by this point in the day, she'd taken any prescribed morning medications several hours earlier, reducing the risk of interaction or absorption interference. Many caregivers unknowingly give seniors vitamins in the morning alongside medications, coffee, or nothing at all. This not only hinders absorption but may lead to digestive upset or vitamin burping, common with fish oil. In contrast, afternoon dosing with a balanced meal provides a smoother experience, physically and mentally. Helen's improvement wasn't immediate, but it was cumulative. Every day, at the same time, her body received what it needed in a form it could actually use. The consistency of routine, paired with optimal timing, created a rhythm of repair. This simple shift, 3 pills, 1 meal, 1 moment each day, became the quiet foundation for her return to clarity. Sometimes the when matters just as much as the what. And in Helen's case, lunch wasn't just nourishment, it was her comeback hour. Helen's daughter had always tried to feed her well, but by 92, Helen simply wasn't hungry anymore. Some days she skipped breakfast. Other days she barely touched her dinner. "She eats like a bird," her granddaughter once said. What they didn't realize was that this gradual undereating was robbing Helen's brain, bite by bite. As seniors age, their appetite naturally declines. Taste buds fade, digestion slows, and medications dull hunger signals. But while calorie needs drop, nutrient needs do not. In fact, the brain often needs more targeted nutrients to stay sharp and protected after 70. Without them, cognitive function begins to slip. Helen's diet was low in protein, low in fat, and low in color: tea, toast, canned peaches, crackers. It was comforting, yes, but deeply lacking in brain-critical vitamins like B12, D3, and omega-3s. Even the meals she did eat weren't enough to make up for days of skipping or picking at food. Dr. Grace Mitchell calls this the undernourished mind. "We see seniors who aren't technically starving, but their brains are," she says. "When the brain doesn't get the building blocks it needs, memory, focus, and language starts slipping away." And because it happens slowly, many families miss the connection. The problem worsens when seniors live alone, feel depressed, or have mobility issues. Cooking becomes a chore. Chewing becomes uncomfortable. The result is a daily deficit that silently compounds, especially for nutrients that aren't stored well in the body, like B12 or omega-3s. Helen's story shows what can change when that gap is addressed. Her daughter didn't force-feed her or revamp her entire diet overnight. Instead, she introduced targeted supplements at the right time, after lunch, when Helen was most receptive. It was a gentle approach, but it had a powerful effect. For other families, the lesson is this: don't wait for dramatic weight loss to suspect a problem. Watch for smaller clues: confusion, irritability, disinterest in meals. These aren't just emotional signals. They're often nutritional cries for help. And with the right intervention, even a mind that feels distant can still return. Sometimes, it's not the brain that's broken, it's the pantry that's empty. When Helen first began to slip, forgetting birthdays, repeating questions, losing her way to the bathroom, her family didn't panic. They comforted her, adjusted routines, and made excuses. "She's just tired. She's getting older." But inside, they were quietly bracing for the worst. This is how it begins for most families. The signs come gently, then steadily. And too often, by the time someone asks why, the damage feels irreversible. But Helen's story is proof that it's not too late, if we start early and look deeper. Dr. Grace Mitchell emphasizes a simple truth. Caregivers are the first line of defense in senior wellness. They see what doctors miss between checkups. And their curiosity can mean the difference between decline and discovery. So what can caregivers do? First, track changes in mood, memory, mobility, and mealtime habits. A sudden disinterest in reading, increased irritability, or skipping meals may be signs of deeper nutritional gaps. Second, request lab work. Ask for a panel that includes B12, vitamin D, iron, thyroid function, and even omega-3 levels. These tests are often skipped unless requested. Third, introduce small, consistent interventions. For Helen, it wasn't a radical diet overhaul or expensive treatment. It was 3 pills, B12, D3, and omega-3, taken after lunch, with love and patience. The key wasn't just supplementation, but timing, routine, and observation. Caregivers can also involve the senior in the process. Helen's granddaughter made it a daily ritual. "Let's feed your brain," she'd say, turning pills into something positive, not clinical, but hopeful. That small reframing helped Helen accept support without feeling like a burden. And finally, care for the caregiver. Burnout can blind even the most devoted family member. Support groups, rest, and moments of joy are vital. Because healing doesn't just happen to the senior, it happens around them. Helen's return wasn't a miracle. It was the result of small decisions, made early enough to matter. And that power lies in the hands of every daughter, son, spouse, or friend who refuses to believe that fading away is the only path left. Sometimes, healing starts with the person who still sees the light, even when the room feels dark. When nutritional deficiencies go unnoticed in seniors, the results can mimic dementia, stealing memory, mood, and identity. Left untreated, these gaps lead to unnecessary medication, emotional withdrawal, and a painful erosion of independence. What begins as subtle forgetfulness can spiral into complete disconnection. But perhaps most tragic of all is how preventable it often is. Without early intervention, families may lose years of meaningful connection, believing their loved one is gone, when in truth, they're just missing what their brain quietly craves. When seniors show signs of memory loss, don't jump to conclusions, says Dr. Grace Mitchell. Ask what they're not getting, especially nutritionally. She recommends screening for vitamin B12, D3, and omega-3 levels as a first step before assuming cognitive decline is permanent. Dr. Mitchell explains that even subtle deficiencies can mimic early dementia, yet are easily treatable. For seniors with low appetite or limited mobility, she suggests liquid or sublingual supplements taken at consistent times, ideally after lunch for optimal absorption. But her biggest advice? Start early. Don't wait until someone forgets your name. Watch for quiet clues: fatigue, flat mood, disinterest in meals. These are the brain's whispers. With the right support, Dr. Mitchell believes many seniors can recover clarity and reconnect with the life and people they love. It's not about reversing time. It's about restoring presence. If you know a senior who seems to be slipping away, don't assume it's too late. Sometimes the mind isn't gone, it's just missing what it needs. Subscribe to Elderly and Health for weekly insights that blend compassion with science, supporting true senior wellness at every stage. Share this story with someone who may need hope, or a reason to look deeper. Because healing doesn't always begin in a clinic. Sometimes it starts after lunch, with 3 small pills, and one person who still believes.